Good afternoon and welcome. I am Reverend Cindy Grimes with the Center for Spiritual Living in Ocala, Florida, and I am so glad that you could join us this afternoon. We're going to have a great time. I've got a wonderful guest lined up for today, but the first thing I want to do, especially if you're a new visitor, is to tell you a little bit about what we are about here. And so we'll get started with a welcome. These are the values we hold at the Center for Spiritual Living, and each Center for Spiritual Living has their own. They choose their own, and this is what is important to us at Center for Spiritual Living Ocala. The very first thing on our list is the idea of spiritual growth and practice. It's why we come together, it's why we exist, and it's why we're with you this afternoon. We value also love. We believe that love is the source of everything. We value appreciation and community. We value freedom, creativity, health and wholeness, generosity, and financial well being. Our mission at the Center for Spiritual Living is the same. We've adopted the same mission as the larger organization. We are just one of over 400 centers for spiritual living that are found all over the United States and Canada and the rest of the world. And our mission is to provide spiritual tools for personal and global transformation. Our purpose is to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence. In other words, we believe that that magnificence is already here. There's nothing that we have to do other than reveal the truth of our being. And our vision is a world that works for everyone. That means the world works for me, it works for you, it works for all of us. And so I love that vision, mission, and purpose, and love sharing it with people. And I'm excited to get going. So I'm going to bring in our practitioner, one of our practitioners, Donna Davis. Is
Hi.
Norma there with you? You're on your own today.
No, Norma's always with me. There she is.
You do it.
She doesn't do the talking as much as I do, so that's why she's not usually online.
Right, right. Yes, the power behind the throne. All right. Well, I thought it would be a lovely thing for you to pray us in before I introduce our guest.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll take myself out of the stream here.
I invite you now to just get centered and relax in your seat as we step into the allness and that connectivity that is all of us. It's from this space that I recognize that God is everywhere. It is everything, it is everyone. It permeates all spaces in time and space. This allness, the Alpha, Omega, the beginning, the end, the first, the last, inside, outside, all of it is God expressing. And since that is true, and I know that inside every fiber of my being, that since that is true, then God is expressing where I am sitting right now. God's also showing up where you are sitting, where each and every person is. We're all divine expressions of the one. And today we invite the words to come forward from Reverend Theresa, the divine expression that is Reverend Theresa and Reverend Cindy, as they have this sacred community and sacred conversation about connection to the allness and connection with each other and how we show up in the world and the healing that can take place on our planet when we are plugged in and aware. It is with joy and gratitude that I await with an open heart to hear today's message. It is with joy and gratitude that I await my good that is always pouring upon me. And I release into the law, knowing that the law is the unconditional love of the divine. I release it knowing that it's already done. And so it is. Amen.
So it is.
Amen. Thank you, Donna. That was so awesome. It feels like a reunion of sorts.
It is a reunion.
How awesome it is to have you do that invocation for Theresa Fieberts, our guest today.
who was my instructor and one of my awesome mentors. So
Yes. Yeah,
I'm
for those
excited.
who don't know, right, that she was your teacher in practitioner.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And definitely one of the people that I reach out to when I'm going through my own stuff. You know, people contact us as coaches like, hey, this is what I'm going through. How can you help me? But every coach needs a coach. And we still have people that we reach out to. You, Reverend Cindy, is one of our main mentors. And then, of course, Reverend Theresa and Reverend Peggy and all those beautiful, wonderful souls who have held us in love and light, knowing our potential and speaking to our potential every single day. And you know, that's what's so great. So I can't wait to hear what comes forward from the two of you.
Oh, thank you, Donna. Love you. Love
Love
you.
you.
All right. We'll see you later on Zoom. Fabulous. All right. So I've told you who our guest is. She is a dear, dear, dear friend and colleague. Theresa Fieberts and I met while we were in the ministerial program. And so this conversation here has actually been in the making for, I don't know, 8 years, something like that. This is something that we talked about back when we were in those classes together. And you know how you have that friend that you hang out with late at night, stay up late and talk and cry and laugh and do all of that stuff. And we did a lot of that in the ministerial program. And so she is just a beautiful human being. She's who I think of when I think of spiritual practice and what it means to be disciplined in that practice. She's just, as I said, a beautiful soul and someone who is really deeply immersed in this teaching. She has been in this teaching since 1992, before I even knew it existed. She's a phenomenal teacher. And I'll tell you, as ministers, we're sometimes reluctant to allow our students to go elsewhere, right, to another teacher, like to have their influence. And there is no one I could think of that was a better teacher for our practitioners at the center. And I was not in a place to do that teaching, and so I was thrilled to have Theresa teach our practitioners and help to graduate Donna and Norma. So we have many, many connections. I'm just going to bring her into the stream, and looking forward to a great conversation. Hey, Theresa.
Hi. I'm verklempt already.
Right.
Before we even get started.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, you're absolutely correct about sometimes we can be a little protective with who teaches our students, especially practitioner students, because there's a real intimate relationship between practitioners and their minister. And it worked, it fit perfectly. And I felt that trust and honor in having Donna and Norma in our class. So yeah, it was great fun and perfect fit.
Yeah, it was beautiful to witness and to know that they were in great hands, and just expanding. You know, it expands for all of us. It's part of what I love about this format and bringing in different voices, is that my community isn't just hearing stuff from me. They're hearing from other people that are living it and that have a little bit different perspective maybe and ways of explaining things. And I think it's just a great opportunity for growth for all of us.
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled you said yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, one multiplying itself. That's what we get.
Absolutely. So tell some of our congregation, whoever's watching, I don't even know who's watching these days. We have a lot more views than we used to get. And since they're not coming in the center, I don't know who they are. But there's likely that there are people who are just being introduced to Science in Mind for the first time. So if you could share some of your story and how you found the teaching and what it's done for you.
Oh, absolutely. I came into this teaching, it was textbook as Michael Beckwith would talk about it, the levels of consciousness, where he talks about the 4 stages of consciousness, and the first stage is victimhood, and that's where I was. Everything happened to me. I was a victim of my parents' choices, of the government's choices, of my husband's choices. That in my head, that's what was going on in my life. And It was a beautiful, it was actually my 10th anniversary in of my first marriage. And my girlfriend brought me, and I cried through the whole thing. And I'll admit, I cried through much of it for many months. I took my first class and I cried in that. But was I shedding and learning at the same time. You know, it was that replacement going on. I was shedding and feeling myself, or becoming aware, really not feeling myself, but becoming aware of truth. And probably the day that I realized I was responsible was a beautiful day for me. You know, I was dealing with alcoholism that wasn't my own. And the day I realized, wait, I'm not an alcoholic. I have a choice in how I live my life. And those kinds of things I was really waking up to. And that level of empowerment was transformative. It was just absolutely transformative. I was in the teaching for a very long time before I decided that I was going to become a minister. And I did a lot of demonstrating then. I think sometimes I think it's funny. Life was changing so quickly for me then, and not as quickly now. But I'm not at the same level of need, which is a wonderful place to be. Even when things go bad today, I trust that there's something on the other side of it. I trust that there's something there for me to learn from and grow from. So it's a whole different way of being. Yeah, 1992. That literally was my 10th anniversary. It was September 18th, 1992. If you can, I remember the day.
Wow.
I just walked in to the Center for Positive Living here in Sarasota.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
You know, it's fun because it shows one of the differences in our personalities, because I don't even remember the year. It was either 2003 or 2004 when I found it. But you got the details, like, you know.
Oh man, it was well, it was an anniversary, so it's hard not to forget that. But it was transformative, that moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about the challenges. Like, what made you decide to become then a minister? You know, it was like you get all the goodies for yourself, and life is working, and then why take this deep dive?
Because I couldn't stop. It literally was, I couldn't stop. I had become a practitioner, and my students know the story. I did it 3 times. I went through the training 3 times, and not because I needed that remedial, but maybe I did. I guess I did. If I went through it, I must have needed it. So, but with change of ministers at our community, and another minister wanted us trained a different way, and then another minister, and then the organization had a shift, and that minister wanted me to do it a different way. So 3 times I went through the training, and I was just entrenched in study. I still am. I literally, it was either this morning or yesterday morning, was thinking, I wonder when I'll go for my PhD. Because I love the study. I love the study. I won't ever stop that. So it really was, I can't stop. That's all. There was no, ministers talk all the time about what you're calling. When did you recognize your calling? And some of them, they were children. And I didn't have that. Mine was just, I just wanted to take the next class. I just wanted to take the next class. It was pretty simple.
Yeah, that's
pretty
awesome.
simple.
So, so I've been thinking about this, the challenge of ministry, and we've talked about this together, actually. The crux of our teaching, at the core of it, I'm going to pull up a little slide here that I created for this, because it's in the introduction to the book, right? And it's by Jean Houston. And she says, if I were to state the essence of this science of mind teaching, right, it would be that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. The core of each human being is the original creative genius of the universe. We are therefore the lensing of God's stuff on earth, the focalization of eternity and time. I just think that's such a beautiful, beautiful statement, right? And I mean, essentially that's what most religions teach, right? Is that there is this thing we call God, and it's everywhere present, right? Omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. And yet that's not the experience that we have as human beings. And I knew going into this ministry, this idea that that was going to be the big challenge, right? Number one, experiencing it myself. But number two, how do you have other people experience that? Like, I mean, it happens sometimes, right? You have this amazing experience. You might have this feeling of overwhelming joy and oneness and bliss that you get in a meditation, or you get it from being out in nature, whatever your thing is. But can we generate that on a regular basis? And how do I live from that space? And how do I help other people find that? And that's what I feel like has been the biggest challenge, and where my work is today.
It's very interesting to me that, and without feeling like I'm judging, but you and I both came from the same background in religion. Mm-hmm. Our upbringing was the same religion, and I often think it's interesting that people that profess a very strong belief in God still have such a strong fear, such a strong feeling of separation, that victim consciousness, a striving in life that is not part of my daily life anymore. Because that closeness, that intimacy, that presence is in everything for me. It's in everything for me and everywhere. And of course, it took a long time to have that be a daily comfort. Donna said it too. She said every single day when she did her treatment, every single day, in every single way, there's a presence and a power that we can rely on, and that relies on us too, which I think is a really important piece that I'm coming in to awareness with in my own personal life. But yeah, that companionship, that intimacy, we don't turn it on and off. Right. I like to say that I don't care what you do on Sunday. Of course, here we are on Sunday, and I'm glad there's people tuned in, but Sunday's not what makes you a faithful person. What you do on Sunday, what you do with your Sunday, it's what you do with your whole life, 24/7.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's not I can remember when I grew up, I was really, really steeped in the faith at that time, and looking at my life through those eyes. And there were people that said, church is just for Sunday. You can't really expect to live that in your whole life, right? And I thought, how bizarre.
No, because there was a hypocrisy that could be seen then, like, well, we're professing this on Sunday, but it doesn't apply to when you're having an argument with somebody, and it doesn't apply when you're doing business and you want the upper hand in business and you might do a little cheat here or there or whatever. That hypocrisy never settled right with me. And that's probably what took me away from the church in my teen years. I mean, I can remember the last day that I went to church, to Catholic church.
Yeah.
And I remember that too. I don't remember the date, but I remember the actual day and what had happened. And so I find that very interesting. Just that, to me, there's no separation. I don't want there to be a separation. I want to be able to know that the presence of God is with me no matter what I'm doing. If I'm doing business transaction, if I'm shopping, if I'm voting, if I'm talking with a friend, a parent, a child, whatever, like, my spirituality is part of what I'm doing all the time.
Right. And there's no compartmentalizing it. There's None. There is no spot where God is not.
No.
We can be like oblivious to the presence, but that doesn't mean it's not there.
Right. Right, right. And the more you practice that it's there all the time, then when you're oblivious, because let's face it, we're not maybe mindful every second of every day, there's still an underlying trust, I think. Like at some point, it might take me a few minutes to remember or even to have somebody point it out to me. But I can get to that place much easier of knowing, oh, that's right. Wait, this is a God thing. This too is a God thing. Was it Emma Curtis Hopkins that said, this too is God and I demand to see the blessing in it? Even that stuff that, man, doesn't feel good.
Right.
God's still there.
Yeah. Yeah. And you said it as you were telling about your story, that we go through things, and it's not like, okay, so now I'm on a spiritual path and now I'm a minister and now my life is beautiful and works wonderfully all the time. It doesn't, stuff still happens. But the difference now is that I know it's temporary. The difference now is that I'm looking for the gift.
Right.
Right? The difference now is that I know I'm going to come out on the other side.
Right.
Right? That's what this journey has done.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And boy, I don't know if you want to go there. I know you just recently talked about having COVID, but even to the nth degree, even when something is life and death, right? It's not the end.
Right.
It's not the end. We know it's not the end.
Yeah. And there's something about really diving into that.
Yeah.
That's been my latest evolution, my latest epiphany, is that we don't avoid the pain. We can't avoid the pain. I mean, the only way through it is to go, is to go through it. And we live as if, somehow we're going to avoid dying. I don't know. Isn't that crazy? Like, we don't want to think about it. You don't want to go there. You don't want to, we don't acknowledge that because we don't want to look at what we don't want to see in our lives, right? But the fact is that we are all checking out of here at some point.
Probably many of the listeners wouldn't know this, but in practitioner training, we actually we write our own eulogy. We write our own eulogy. We imagine what our celebration of life would be like, what people would say, and what kind of music we would want, and what the essence of that celebration would be about, what the essence of our life has been about. And I think that that's a wonderful, wonderful thing to do. And I know at first it's tough for people to look at that, but you're right. We can't avoid. I don't think it's healthy for us to avoid any part of life, the painful parts, the scary parts, the parts that we feel ashamed of or guilty about. It's not healthy, and it's not spiritually necessary. I think it's spiritually necessary to do those things.
Yeah. We don't avoid the pain and the suffering. It's still underlying things.
Don't you think it's worse? I think it's worse if we stuff it and hide it. I used to tell my kids when they were little, not, to go into whatever they were upset about or fearful about. I'd always give them the time to have a breather. We don't have to talk about it right now. Go upstairs, we'll talk about it tomorrow. There's no rush to talk about it, but we will talk about it. Because if you don't, it gets stuck in there. And science already tells us, and Ernest Holmes told us, that our memories don't go away. They're in our body, and it will come out, and it will come out probably ugly. It's going to come out sideways, is what I used to tell the kids. It'll come out sideways, but it'll come out at a time and a place you don't want it to. So.
Right. And I feel like, I look at life as that ripple. Our teaching is very inner focused, right? Because that's where it all begins. I can't change you. We can't change anybody else. We start with ourselves, and then it creates this ripple, right? So everything works out from there. So I'm now, making it a practice to actually dive into conflict dive into the fear, dive into the pain, you know, and
I'm really
do it.
I'm really encouraging my community right now. We've been talking last week. We talked about our fears around the election, the upcoming elections, and fears around our democracy and the process and all of that. And today we visioned on it, and we'll talk about it more next week. But the idea that something that seems so remote to most Americans, who becomes president, most of us think we don't have a say in that, that it's so far from our reality, we're separated from it, and it's so not true. Everything is consciousness. Everything is the energy that we're resonating with. And if we're angry, if we're holding on to hatreds and condemnations and judgments that we don't let go of, we're seething that. I like to use the image of Pigpen and Charlie Brown, you know, with all the dirt around. Yeah. We're just throwing off all that ickiness. How in the world are we part of the solution when we do that?
Right.
Can't be. And we're not separate from it. We are it. We are the presidency. We are the election. We are the economy. We are the health of this country. We're it. What else would it be? It's got to be us.
Right. So our first work is to handle the stuff inside of ourselves, right?
Always, always. It's Science of Mind 101, can be applied to any topic.
Yes.
It always starts here. Always starts here with my perception, my judgment of what's going on out there, because out there came from in here. And it may not have been, like my first minister said, everything in our lives we either create, allow, promote, or step in.
Mm-hmm. I got to write that one down. Create,
allow, promote, or step in.
Oh, because boy.
Sometimes we stepped in it. That's, I think, what Ernest Holmes was talking about when he talked about race consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's the soup of all the stuff in there. Carl Jung, maybe collective consciousness, but the subconscious where everything is, and sometimes we're going to bump up against that.
Right.
But we're still responsible.
Yeah.
And what we do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I know that you're really interested in issues of racial justice, you know, and there are so many people that say, well, you know, whatever happened, that slavery happened, I didn't have anything to do with that. You know, why is that a thing now? And how do you answer to that? Like, to go back to your examples, right? We either create it, we allowed it, we promote it, or we stepped in it.
And the stepping in it could be, you know, an unawareness. My first awareness that I was doing something that wasn't right, what's the word I want to use? Wasn't right. I was unaware of how my behavior and what I was saying was affecting someone else, was in ministerial school around this topic. And I had a dear friend, and we were sitting next to each other, and they were leading us in a process of telling a racial story. You know, if there was anything that like you wanted to disclose. And I had a story from being in high school. And my friend is, she's a dear friend now, African-American minister. And she got up and walked away from me. She said, I can't listen to this. I'm not going to listen to this. And I was so hurt. I was like, wow, what did I say? What did I do? And I realized I was stuck in my whiteness. I was stuck in my seen from my white perspective, and only from my white perspective, as to why this group of Black girls that I went to high school with didn't like me, because I was friends with one of the really good looking, smart Black guys. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I'm telling her, gee, I was nice. I was friendly with them, and they didn't like me. And I get it now.
Yeah.
And I didn't get it. And I thought, why in the world would she walk away from me? But that was my blindness, my arrogance of not recognizing that there was something going on from their perspective that I didn't know, I didn't understand, and I didn't stop to try to understand either. I was stuck in my side of the story, just my side of the story.
Right.
And thank you to her, because she helped me see that's what whiteness is. That's what it is that we only see it from our perspective. And so it's a beautiful opportunity for us right now. And that was, like in 1974 in Washington, right outside Washington, D.C., when I was probably a freshman or sophomore in high school. And I didn't know. And now I know.
Right.
Now I know to ask somebody else, what happened there for you? What was that for you?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't that for me.
Right. That's what I love so much about the work that I'm doing, my extracurricular, my other focus ministry, in bringing people together in circle, to restorative conversations where you get like that 360 camera in the center of the situation, and everybody gets to speak from their perspective, and you hear everybody's side, and it expands your view,
Right.
and it expands theirs.
Right.
Have a more realistic picture of where we are.
Right. And it's not, I didn't do anything bad. It's not that I didn't make racism. I wasn't even, I was wanting to be friends. And I have another example of that. So I know that was part of me growing up and understanding how I had an arrogance about being white, that, well, you should just accept me. Of course you should. Why wouldn't you?
Right. Yeah. So where did I want to go with next? So both of us share this interest in issues of social justice. We both do. And there are people in New Thought and in our movement that feel like we're not supposed to deal with that, like circumstance, right? That my work is to deal with myself. And when I am right within myself, the outside will reflect that. So we don't mess, there are people that say you don't deal in circumstance, right?
All our work is done in mind.
Right. But by focusing on those isms, for example, racism, sexism, whatever the problem happens to be, that we create more of that because we're focusing on that.
No, so that's exactly, to me, that's exactly like the idea of if I'm angry or upset about something and I stuff it and I just like replacement method, which is what we teach. We teach that, that if you're having a negative thought, you replace it with a positive truth. But that doesn't mean you ignore it. Ernest Holmes never said we ignore conditions. We don't ignore conditions. We know the power's not in the condition. That's what we do. But we deal with conditions by changing our perspective around it, but not by ignoring it. So
Right.
we first have to understand it. We first have to understand. I think awareness and understanding comes first before anything. Meditation is my number one tool. It's not spiritual mind treatment, which most science mind ministers would say, well, spiritual mind treatment is their number one tool. But how do I know what to even treat for if I'm not aware? So we have to be aware of what's going on in our country and in our own personal lives, or in the collective consciousness, or in our society, our collective consciousness. And we know that something is being revealed within it. That's the key, is that we look at the strife and the upset and the unrest that's going on right now, civil disobedience that some people would say, from racial injustices and people suffering for a very, very long time, people suffering. And so we do need to look at that, and we can apply our teaching to it. Ernest Holmes said, actually, I don't know that he said treat and move your feet. Do you know he said that? I've never found where he said that. I've looked for it. But he definitely says that our work is done in mind and action. I mean, there's multiple places where we can pull out those quotes. You know, I just want to say this. I'm going to kind of interrupt myself, but I think that the Science Mind textbook can be used just like the Bible to support either side of this argument. You know, you can use the Bible to support your argument about whatever it happens to be in society. We can do the same thing with the Science Mind textbook. I get what your question is. That some people believe that, yeah, by looking at it, we give it energy. My answer to that would be, then why do we have an argumentative step in treatment? You know, I love the argumentative step. And when I first heard it, I didn't like it because I thought, oh no, I don't want to give energy to that. And then when I started teaching, I have students who said, oh, I don't want to give energy to that. I'm like, well, you better give energy to it, because it's going to take your energy if you don't. It hijacks your energy if you don't look at it and deal with it. I think I used this example with you before. When people have a cancer diagnosis and they come to you for treatment, but they don't want to say the word cancer. They call it the C word. Well, to me, there's way more energy in not saying the word than saying the word.
Right. What we resist persists. It's still there.
Right. What we resist persists. Resist not. I mean, I think the Buddhists are spot on with that. That is definitely the one thing that I love so much about the Buddhist teachings, is not to resist what is, or Taoist, which or Hinduism. You know, what is. And Ernest Holmes even said, we're never in a place where we don't want better. So I've also heard people say, well, if you're saying we want a world that works for everyone, then we're saying that it doesn't work. Well, it does work. God is in it, right? Working. Well, Ernest Holmes said we can never be in a place where we don't want more and better, where we don't want a greater expression of God. We want a greater expression of equality and justice and a level playing field of resources and everybody having plenty and all of that. How can you say that God is everywhere when children are starving, when there's people living in poverty? Mm-hmm. We are the hands and feet of God. We're here to do that work.
Right. And we're here to heed that call. You know, the thing that's in your heart, the thing that touches you, that moves you, that is yours to do. And we all have different things to do.
So I think I said we visioned today for in our community, we visioned for the election. Well, there's two questions in visioning that are usually included in visioning, is what is mine to release and what is mine to embrace? Because it doesn't matter what we're visioning for, there's always our own personal participation, our own level of participation. If we're treating for something or visioning for something on a global level or a community level or society level, there's still work that we do, right? There's still work that we do. And that's really important to always be cognizant of, I think, is what we're bringing to the table.
Yeah. You know, the analogy I really love is of the GPS.
Yeah.
You know, where you can plug into your GPS, I want to get to this destination. So we've done all this visioning, right? We can feel and envision ourselves a world at peace. You know, we know that vision and we know that destination. But if that GPS doesn't know where you are at the moment, it can't tell you how to get where you're going. Right? Because there is many different ways, right? Many paths to to that vision. But if we can't acknowledge the truth of where we are, then
Right.
how do we even get on the road? What direction do you go?
Well, we had people this morning in our Zoom time after the service that shared with us that, they heard things like drop their judgment, their anger, that what is mine to release? My judgment about it, my anger about it, my feeling of inadequacy or separation from what goes on out there, those kinds of things. And I know for myself, envisioning over many, many years of visioning, that there's a commonality of things that I'm being asked to release and things I'm being asked to embrace that might seem like they have nothing to do with the topic that we're visioning for, but it's spirit's expansion and growth and expression in me that makes a difference in the world. If I'm holding back because I feel less than, and I'm not shining my light like I'm meant to shine my light, like we all are meant to shine our lights, not just ministers, every one of us has something to contribute to this society, to life. And it is God throwing. May I read a quote? This is my very favorite Ernest Holmes quote. And there is an inner urge in our minds to grow, to expand, to break down the barriers of previous limitations, and to ever widen our experience. This persistent urge is a divine influence, an irresistible force, and constitutes the greatest impulse in human experience. That's from Living Without Fear, Ernest Holmes. If we did that, imagine what this world would be like if everyone listened to that urge with the capital U inside of them, spirit expressing in them for a greater experience, for our minds to grow, to expand, to break down barriers of previous limitations.
Right. The past is not precedent, right? Because this happened before, it doesn't mean it has to happen in the future.
There's no barrier except for the ones that we set up for ourselves.
Yeah. Which is where your life is happening, right? I mean, ultimately, your life is happening in between, right? Your ears. My life is happening here, even though it looks like it's out there. This is where the experience is.
Right. And the more we can trust that, and the more we can listen to that, and the more we step out in faith with that, the better our entire world will be, when we've woken up.
Yeah.
So that magnificence that's in us. I love that that's your vision, that it's part of your mission. Right?
Yeah.
Mission. Yeah, ours too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's beautiful. Let me see if there's any comments here to address. Oh, we've had some of our friends join us today. I see Rodney's been here.
Oh, yay!
Rodney and Bobby's on there, and oh, how nice.
Can I address that just for a moment?
Yeah.
I don't know really what it has to do with anything that we're talking about, but to me, this is something so sacred in my life. And I encourage everybody, you may not think that you are going to become a minister, but taking these classes, what you do in classes is an amazing unpacking of your stuff, and you have people that are witnessing to you and holding the space for you to do that, and it is a beautiful process. And going through ministerial school with Cindy and Rodney and Ed and George and Rick and all our lovelies, Elizabeth, who just had a birthday. These are my sisters and brothers that are part of me, literally part of me, because the work we do is so beautiful and it's exactly what Cindy and I are talking about, right, Cindy? It's not turning away from your stuff, but embracing your stuff, going into your stuff, and knowing that you're going to come out on the other side.
People cheering you on, right? Your friends, your tribe is there. They're cheering you on. I knew you could.
Are, and it's such a fabulous experience. I just encourage anybody. I always tell people, go take all the classes at least through first year, first term of prac training.
Yeah.
Because we look at our biases then. That's the year we look at our biases and our prejudices. And I don't mean necessarily color prejudices, but our biases about all kinds of things. And I'll tell you, our beloved Donna opened my eyes in the class that she was in with me.
Yeah.
You know, it's a beautiful experience to really engage with your spiritual growth. Really engage it, not just dabble.
Right. And what an honor and privilege and blessing it is to be that space where people can come and grapple with their stuff and grow, and and then
Nothing like
the student becomes the teacher and the teacher becomes the student, and it's just, again, that beautiful, oneness, that swirl where we're all reflections of one another.
I think the witnessing piece, as a practitioner, it's wonderful to hold space. I think witnessing to someone's journey and their disclosures is the most precious and sacred thing in my ministry.
Yeah.
To witness and to hold that space of safety for people and love.
Well, you have been that for me, and I think
you too for me.
Yeah. those late nights, right? Is there anything you want to say in closing? We're like way over time already. I knew we would.
Oh my God, then no, but just thank you so much, and to your community, I love you. I've been there a few times, and you have a beautiful thing in Ocala, and I love, Cindy, too, that you have your second ministry. You have your center and you have your focus ministry, and it's such beautiful work that you're doing in the world. I'm just so honored.
Thank you.
And I would
if I didn't, I think I mentioned that you're a cultural coast, a fairly new ministry since 2018.
Yeah.
New community is doing well.
Doing very well.
Yes, that's phenomenal.
And we're going to have Cindy with us and share with us all the things she knows about restorative justice.
Yeah, well, I'm excited about that, and I'm excited about your ministry in Sarasota, and just for anybody that might be on that happens to be in that area to tune in. I know you guys are not meeting in person at the moment either, but yeah. But also, catch Theresa. Your service is at what time? 10:30?
We're at 11.
At 11. Awesome. So they can watch you, and then they can come watch me.
Yeah, you can have a whole day. I just said, man, jump in full body. Don't dabble in this. Get engaged in your spiritual growth. Yeah, so you can come see us at 11, and then go eat lunch, and then Cindy and you.
Yeah, and we're both recorded, so they can catch it even after the fact. It doesn't have to be live.
Right.
Anyway, honey, I love you. Thank you so much.
I love you too. Thank you.
We're going to be on Zoom after. I don't know if you have time to hang out with us a little bit in case anyone wants to say hello.
Yeah, great.
All right. Thank you. Love you. Bye. Oh, you know what? Before I close out, why don't you do a prayer? Would you do that? I love how you pray. Would you pray us out?
Yeah. Is it for our closing?
Yeah, for this closing, yes.
Oh, beautiful. I'm always so grateful to be able to close my eyes, where really the whole world opens up once I close my outer eyes and go to the inner eye, where there is a vastness of possibility. Infinite possibilities reside right here within my own space, right where each one of us is the presence of the divine in its fullness, in its unconditional love and support. And so I am so grateful for this awareness, for this knowing, and for this time spent together in spiritual conversation, heart opening, mind expanding, spiritual conversation. I know that this experience for myself and for each person that's been involved here this morning or that listens in later on is uplifted, that there's a shedding of what no longer serves, and an upliftment and a renewal, a commitment to living a spiritual life, knowing that it is 24/7 spiritual living, that God is present in and through and as everything, and it's good and very good. I know this truth for myself and for each one of us. I know it for our world, and I am so grateful and filled to overflowing as I release this word and allow God to do its good and perfect work. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, my dear. Love you. And see you
Love
soon.
you. Bye.
All right. Well, I have an affirmation to share with you all that I think goes really beautifully with our conversation today. And it is, today I reflect God's good so that every person I meet can experience God through me. And so I invite you to take that affirmation, put it into your own words, whatever you choose, but take that essence and that idea with you into this week to be the reflection of God's good so that everyone can experience the presence through you. And so now it is time for us to share our gifts and tithes. And let me find that here. Yes. Well, we have lots of people that give to the center, and we truly appreciate each and every one of you. If everybody gave $10 or $20, it would go a long way toward us continuing to do this work and being able to share this ministry. And so I invite you to give and to give where you're spiritually fed. And if that's not this place, well, give someplace. But I hope that it is us. And again, we greatly appreciate it. Whether you're giving of your time, your talent, or your treasure, you need to be giving something. You need to give. That is how we put the wheel in motion. As we give, we receive. You want to get friendship, you give friendship. If you want money, you give money. If you want love, you give love. And it just puts the wheel in motion for each one of us. And so this is our affirmation. I invite you to say it with me. It is the nature of life to give of itself, as it is the tree's nature to bloom and the flowers, as it is the tree's nature to bear fruit and the flower's nature to bloom. It is my nature to share the gifts of my time, talent, and treasure. I participate in the divine flow of life, giving generously and receiving abundantly. I am blessed and I am a blessing. I am grateful. And you will see along the bottom of the screen, there is a way that you can donate to the Center for Spiritual Living. You can send a text message to that number to 352-320-5110. And what you do is put in the amount that you would like to donate, and it goes out of your account and into ours. Or you can go to cslocala.org and donate through our PayPal. And so that is that. And I think that is about it. I'm going to put up our prayer for protection. This comes from our sister organization, Unity, and James Dillett Freeman, and it is called the Prayer of Protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And so I just know and pray and affirm that all is well in your world. And I would invite you to join us in our Zoom conversation. That's a more private conversation than this one. I believe the link is probably, there it is. It is in the stream. So just click on that. For our Zoom discussion, Theresa will be there and some other folks, and we'll just catch up. And if you're new, we'd love to meet you. So have a fabulous week. I look forward to seeing you all next week. Love and blessings to each one of you.